Hello, just getting here set up. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Tuesday night principal chiropractic call. We got a special guest tonight, a guy who most of you know. He's from the great state of Illinois, from Roscoe, Illinois. He's one of the nicest guys in the world, one of the most patient guys in the world, and if you know him, you'll know that because he's got a wonderful mother-in-law and a wonderful wife. He's been in practice 28 years by himself, but recently he has, and his wife and his mother-in-law have joined all together, and they got a rocking practice in Illinois. They just give to the chiropractic all forever. They're great DE people. So for no further ado, let's hear it for Chris Rini.
All right, here we are. I just want to make note that we started almost exactly at 8 o'clock, which I think is a big win. So thank you, Lee and Andy, for that. We're pretty much right on time. So what I want to talk about tonight, I've been thinking about this. Of course, this is the part of the year where we really think about abundance and being grateful, thankful. Thanksgiving is coming up. And what Andy said was, it's true. I've been in practice 20 years. The first couple of years of those, I did have an associateship. And when I graduated in 93 from Palmer Davenport, had a lot of passion for chiropractic, but of course, like most everybody else, I had a tremendous amount of debt and really no money to start a practice. No backing, didn't have really any mentors. So the first 6 months after graduation, I worked for a trucking company. And you could smoke back then in the offices. I would go home reeking of smoke. Really not a great beginning to chiropractic practice. And so obviously at a very low level, not feeling really good about life and looking for an associateship, found one. And at that point in time, I would probably sign anything that you put in front of me to get a job. And when he asked me how much money I needed, of course, that line of questioning, I looked for the bare minimum that I thought I need this job. So I barely said enough to make my bills. And so over the course of that time, the 2 years, just kept struggling. And what I realized in signing that contract was that all the clauses that were weighted for him and made it so I was doing all the work, of course, and he was reaping all the benefits. And the one that always struck to me is the non-compete clause. And just the other day, what I realized that when I was thinking over this talk was that here's somebody that had been in practice 30 years and wanted me to sign a non-compete, that he was afraid of me opening up across the street, that somehow that here I am, a new grad, just fledgling, would somehow steal all these patients from him. So when I was called up to work for Dr. Mike Busco up here in Roscoe, literally the whole experience was completely different. He literally wrote, I wish I still had it, wrote our contract on a napkin after our second meeting. And it was a fair contract, pretty much a 50-50 split. If I worked harder, I was all the benefit to me. And there wasn't even a mention of a non-compete. When I brought it up, he said, I wouldn't mind if you opened up across the street. We could use more principal chiropractors. We need more people that can adjust. Why would I want to restrict you in our neighborhood, in our community? We need more principal chiropractors to practice. And so the two mindsets were completely obviously striking. And one was so much fear and lack motivation and how he thought. And of course, Dr. Mike's was abundance. We need more, no fear, purely in a loving way. And he was open and sharing and giving information and wanted me to succeed and came up with ways for me to grow. And so that's, and not that I didn't learn anything from my first associate. He did teach me some things. But one of the greatest things he did teach me was that I wouldn't treat my associate the way that he treated me. And so that's one of the things that I carried on. And after Dr. Mike's experience, I've always I have had associates over the years, and we always made it as fair as possible. So, you know, we we sometimes think of lack and fear and abundance and being blessed. And what I always think about is that when we are grateful for everything, we are always blessed and abundant. And every moment when we're doing something, um, there's somebody that either has less than us, and we are, I want to say, we're blessed or abundant, and just abundant means overflowing. And so just tonight we were looking at driving home and seeing the sunset, and we are abundant in seeing that, in the overflowing of that joy of our creation. And so um, the thing that we always have to remember is that we're more than enough in everything that we do. And one of the things that we think about is, but we always want to connect back to our source. And when we do our 49 breaths, when we meditate, what we're doing is connecting back to the source. And one of the ways we know that as chiropractors is through the chiropractic adjustment. And so through those couple things, whenever times are tough, whenever we feel like we're struggling, when things are happening, we need to go back to our source. And through meditation, through prayer, and of course, being adjusted and connected from above down, inside out. We can condition our mind to see things in certain ways. And one of the ways that we do that is either through through the meditation and the prayer. But one of the things that can also bring us the opposite way are always listening or being around negativity. And whether it's news, even online with negative memes or things that create fear or anger in us, when we continually hear those things, that can create loops in us. And I'd always tell my girls that if you can tell yourself negative things, how bad things are, or how stupid or ugly you are, and you can believe those things, well, surely you can tell yourself the opposite and believe those things as well. So we always have to be mindful in the loops that we create and what we tell ourselves. And one of the things I always tell myself to ground myself in the moment is there's nothing I have to have, there's nothing I have to do, and there's nothing I have to be than what I am right now. And whenever I get caught up in the moment, before I go to bed, it always pulled me back to the moment right now, because essentially that's the only moment we have is right now. And when we talk about training, they did a study with fish, and what they did was they had a tank, and they blocked off all but a third of the tank for the fish to swim in. And after weeks of the fish swimming in only a third of the tank, when they pulled out the barrier, the fish stayed within that third of the tank that they had been only allowed to be in. And of course, we've heard that as far as, the same story when you chain an elephant and for so long, and you take away the chain, the elephant won't run away because it feels like it's still anchored to that spot. So we can train ourselves and be programmed to certain thought patterns that can sometimes be tough to break, but we can train ourselves in the positive. And we were tested on that on Monday morning. We, as you know, we're in Northern Illinois. It's middle of November, and I like to get to the office about 45 minutes before we open. And we walk in, and the temperature in our office was 47 degrees. Now, I know some of the people in the South, Florida, that you can't comprehend that temperature, but it's cold when you're in your office. And so at that moment, we had to scramble. We had space heaters in our house. My wonderful CA, Laura, ran home, was able to get a couple space heaters from her house. She brought blankets to have on our chairs for the patients. They could wrap themselves in there. And, we did the best with what we had, made it a big day as it was. And people, of course, joke that I didn't pay my electric bill or the gas bill. And I said that's because I couldn't afford it, and I'd have to raise my prices. So we got a joke out of it and a laugh, but we didn't panic. We did what we needed to do. And even with this 4 space the space heaters that we had running, it only raised the temperature in the office maybe 10 degrees by lunchtime. But the first thing I thought of was to be grateful for the fact that it didn't happen in the middle of January when it could be 10 below zero or 10 degrees. And that I also have a friend patient that's a furnace man. So he was able to come at lunch and kind of get us limped along until we can get a new furnace installed on Thursday. But even taking that and knowing that we can spin that and still have a great day serving our patients in our community, no matter what's happening around us. And we were able to, through that, train our mind to just keep doing what we need to do, keep serving what's happening. So we have to affirm our abundance. And I always, before I go to bed, it's the last thing we should think of, instead of whatever might have happened in a day that might create a negative, instead of sleeping on that, having that being your last memories, I always go back to the things that I'm grateful for, the positivity in my life, anything that can anchor me to a more positive mindset before I go to bed. That phrase I said earlier, there's nothing I have to have, there's nothing I have to be, there's nothing I have to do than other than what I am doing right now. And that brings back to the moment of right now, this is what I should be doing. And the other thing we should always do is of course focus on the good. So the other thing is we should try to find, if you absolute low, we should try to find 5 things that are good and 5 people that are special to you. And for some people that may even be hard, in which case it's find one thing that you're good at, one person that is special to you, and make that a beginning point to move forward on. And of course, one of the last things, and as DE Principal Chiropractic, it's to give and share freely. That's obviously the mantra that we have is to give, serving out of our own abundance with no expectations. Serving and giving is a form of currency. It's an exchange of energy. And when we exchange that energy in a positive, giving way, we create that energy, that movement. The one book I read, it talks about when you, if you were walking down the street and you saw somebody begging for $5 and you looked in your wallet and you only had $5 and you said, hey, I can't give him, that's my last $5. Essentially, you keeping that and hoarding that for yourself, essentially saying that you don't have enough. There isn't any more where that came from. So instead of it giving freely, knowing that you will be paid back, that energy and that goodness will be repaid, you're fearful. And that fear in itself creates that loop that there isn't enough, that there isn't abundance, and there isn't more out there. And so that is my message for this evening. I hope you found it helpful, inspiring, hopefully, and hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and see everybody at the next DE. Thank you.
Dude, thank you. Present time consciousness, right? I mean, just living in the moment,
right,
all the time. Love that. And attitude of gratitude, and seeing in your mind what you want to see in your mind. And that way we create it. I love it, man.
Perfect. Yep.
It's simple, but it has to be done, right? And
right.
Most people
over and over again.
Right. It's like, what's the next step? No, go back step 1. What's the next step? Back step 1.
Yep. Always got to connect. Always got it back.
Right. Dr. Sid always talking about blocking and tackling. Really simple, but you got to go through the fundamentals. That was awesome.
Basic. Thank you, buddy.
All right. I appreciate everybody. Next week, we get the pleasure of listening to his wife. So tune in next week, and you'll have Brett Casanova be our speaker. So y'all have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Love you. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, guys.